Welcome to Afi Reverie Bra Sewalong video tutorial. This is part 5. And today we're working on one of the most difficult part for this bra, adding the cradle. But I am here to help you every step of the way. Confident mood on. And let's dive in. So I am picking up my cradle pieces. The cradle has the most important notch for this bra. The notch is placed on the curve. I've already marked mine on both pieces. Stop the video and mark yours. It's a must. Now let's look how the pieces arrange against the cups. This higher side goes to the bridge, which is the center front of the bra. If I pick one cup up, the center front side is where the diagonal seam leans down. With the right side of the cup facing me, I have also arranged the cradle with its right side of the fabric up. And the cradle will join the cup like this. See how the notch matches the vertical seam on the cup? That is the confirmation that we've chosen and aligned correctly the pieces. The problem here is, we're going to need to sew this very uncomfortable curve. And to make this easier, let's bring the tricks on. Take whatever small, but sharp, scissors you have, and clip on each side of the notch, like this. Then continue clipping along the entire curve. My fabric here is slippery, and the cuts are a bit difficult to make. If your cradle uses non-stretch fabric, the cuts need to be deeper, but no more than 5 mm. That is 1/4 inch. The distance between the clips is around 1.2 centimeters, or 1/2 inch. With both curves clipped, I am now flipping the cradle pieces with their wrong side up. And with them I am also turning, and arranging the cups to their corresponding cradle. Now I am ready to join the pieces. Let's start with one side, okay? First, I am flipping the cup, but this time it's upside down. And I am placing it on the table. Then I am picking the cradle up with both of my hands. And look, no flipping. I am just dragging the cradle on top of the cup. The goal is to perfectly match the notch with the seam on the cup. Now I want this fixed in place. And for that I am going to use a pin. To have this perfectly secured, I am pinning on each side of the notch. From here, I move on to the shorter side of the curve trying to arrange the edges. On this side the cradle sticks out with a sharp corner, see? Alright, let's pin this. One pin here. And one pin near the end. Let me show you what's going on the back of my work. Again, see the sticking corner? You should definitely have this on your project. Okay, let's not waste time. We've got to arrange the other side of the curve as well. On this end, the sticking corner isn't that sharp anymore. In fact, it's barely visible, but it's there. Holding the end, work with your fingers and glide the cradle to the edge of the cup. When satisfied, pin the end. Then distribute the pins along the empty space. Something like this. On the back my work looks like this. On some segments, the pins catch the sling. Remember we added it in the previous episode? The next step is for beginners, although for beautiful results I do it too. This seam is not comfortable to stitch on the machine having the pins in. That is why I am going to baste it first. If you're an experienced seamstress, you can skip basting. My fabric here is slippery and like I said, I want this to be perfect, and I put the effort to baste. With the cradle secured, I am now taking the pins off. And this is how my work is coming together so far. When sewn, the cradle will revert back, revealing that stubborn curve we're working on. But right now, we need to jump to the sewing machine. I like to sew this particular seam with the cups on top. It's a lot easier to follow the curved edge this way. The guide here, as for any other seam, is the foot of the machine aligned to the edge of the fabric. I am securing the stitch end, then stop and flatten the work underneath. And I am doing this rather often. Stop, check, and arrange the layers, then stitch a segment. That's because I don't want any puckering on the cradle. The stitch will end at that triangle gap there. Don't forget to secure the seam. And let's inspect our work. Looking good, in fact. The stitch runs far enough from the edge, and there are no folds caught in it. Also, no clip was run by the stitch. That's important, otherwise we'd get holes in the cradle. If you have caught a clip, go back to your machine and stitch a little further from the edge. I am moving on to remove the basting thread since it has served its purpose successfully. Of course I am going to inspect the seam again. First on the cradle side. Then on the cup side. Is yours looking similar? If you've been following along, I am certain you have successfully joined the cradle to the cup. Let's place the project on the table with the right side up. We are not done with this seam yet. On this side we'll add the bridge in a later episode. But right now, note the sticking seam allowance corner on this side. Ideally, we want it to stay in a fixed position when we get to adding the bridge. And with it, we want this seam as flattened as possible. I am going to baste the seam allowances. But you can skip ahead and top stitch if you feel confident enough. One cup done. One more to go. Then I can follow the curve and top stitch them. For this seam I am using the straight stitch. This stitch is very close to the curve line. Don't worry if yours is a little further. Okay, now we want to add one more stitch, again following the curve. But this time actually, we want to follow and catch the edge of the seam allowance. This is going to be just a bit trickier because I am stitching it from the right side, and can't see the actual edge of the seam allowance. To my rescue, again is the presser foot, that I align with the curve at a distance. And while sewing I am always careful to respect that distance watching the foot. For this stitch, it's important that we use the zigzag. I will show you why in a moment. Eyes on the foot, and both hands on your work. Flatten a small area and stitch. Stop, arrange and stitch again. When the cradle becomes narrower, go slowly and stop very often. Don't rush and be careful with your fingers. It's just a bit harder, but not impossible. And look how beautiful it is. Nice and clean and flat. And let me show you why we used the zigzag here. See how the seam allowance is completely enclosed? This way when we're going to wear the bra, the seam allowance won't bulk up under our breast. Also, the cradle now has a good structure on the curve line. What I need to do further is to remove the basting thread. Behind the camera I have sewn my second cup and cradle. These two will be joined together here, by the bridge in the future. But for now, take a deep breath. You've just completed an important stage for this bra. If you have little fabric waves here, like I do on this piece, have no worries. When we'll be adding the bridge, this section will be part of that seam. Something like this. And no waves will be visible on the front. Alright, and one more thing. If you think the zigzag somehow gathers the fabric, note that. When the bra is on, the band will stretch, and the cradle will flatten out nicely. So, again, no worries here. Everything will sit perfectly in the end. And speaking about the end, we are actually finished with the cradle and headed on to the next stage. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and that it has helped you successfully complete this step for your bra. In the next episode, we will be adding the power bars, which is way easier. See you there. Cheers!